Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering Academy. Thank you for joining us on this lesson about improving your groove. If you kind of struggle with speeding up or slowing down in your tempo, maybe you have trouble locking in with a metronome, then this is I'm going to give you some tips as a professional guitarist here in Nashville to how you can improve your sense of time, sense of groove, we call it, feel, your feel with it. You are basically trying to sync in with an external tempo. This ability of syncing with a tempo is a tricky but a very important skill. Thank you, sweetheart. So here we have a metronome. Now, there's all kinds of ways to work with a metronome. This is not about trying to build up your speed with a metronome. This is not that. This is not about trying to learn a song and trying to work with a metronome to learn a song. This is not that type of work. We're going to talk about a different type of work. I'm talking about the sensation that you have of a groove. So, one of the things we did at our Fall Fingerstyle retreat is I did a little song, Just the Two of Us, and that starts out with a little groove. This is a little metronome here. This is currently, 92 beats per minute? 92 beats per minute. Okay, so this is the groove. And what the gig is I'm trying to sync my clock, my internal clock, with this tempo. Okay? So one of the songs we did at the Fall Fingerstyle retreat was a little song called Just the Two of Us, which has an intro that's something like... So that ability to match my tempo with what's going on here is what we're talking about. How to find your groove, how to find that internal sense of time. So how do you build that up? All right, so let's talk about that. It is a complex building of a lot of different systems in your mind. If we can go just deep for a second with it. It is a blending of musical, neurological, physical, and motor skills to be able to lock into a tempo. And I've been reading this great book by the amazing Oliver Sacks, who recently died a few years ago. And the book is called Musicophilia. And it's all about it's about music of the brain, neurological aspects of music. One of the things that I came across in Oliver Sacks's research, he has this statement. Talking about playing along with a groove. He said, the rather mechanical term is called entrainment and is sometimes used in regard to the human tendency to keep time, to make motor responses to rhythm. All right, so taking rhythm and doing a motor response to it, whether playing a guitar, tapping along with it, or singing an aria. But research has now shown that so-called responses to rhythm actually precede the external beat. So I'm not just listening to the beat and responding. I have to listen to the beat, and then it goes on to say we anticipate the beat, we get rhythmic patterns as soon as we hear them, and then we establish internal models or templates, a little model, a little template, a little road that we have to walk on. And these internal templates are astonishingly precise and stable. As Daniel Levitin, another researcher, and Perry Cook have shown, humans have very accurate memories for tempo and rhythm. And being able to follow along with a beat is a uniquely human characteristic. It's what he's talking about there is that we're not just following the metronome. We're not following the metronome. Any drummer can tell you, a drummer can't follow. A drummer, if you follow, he's always going to be behind. A drummer must have an internal sense of rhythm, and he must lead from that internal sense of timing that is going on with him. Same thing with us. So as soon as we hear this, we now have to interpret that, and that becomes a grid in our mind, as Oliver Sacks calls it. And then now we lock what we are doing, motor skill-wise, into that grid that is happening there. All right. So let's get back into some musical things. the brain likes consistent rhythm, okay? If you're playing kind of out of rhythm, then the brain doesn't know how to predict what's coming next. That's why certain things with strong beats and strong rhythms just feel good. Shoot, I was listening to Huey Lewis in the News today, The Power of Love, and it's just that infectious groove that's happening through that whole thing. And it's just the brain likes that. I mean, it scratches an itch of precision that the brain likes when you lock into a tempo and lock into a groove. It makes the listener feel relaxed and makes the listener feel comfortable. As soon as a player, it doesn't matter, you can play all the notes in the world, but if you don't play with a sense of timing and rhythm, the listener doesn't latch onto it. It just has nothing to latch onto. But the moment that you play a simple phrase in tempo, in time, with an internal sense of that grid that Oliver Sacks talked about, then the listener feels relaxed and they feel like they can lock in with what you're playing. Here's some ways that you can think about approaching this subject of how to develop that in your own sense. Some people, it comes very naturally. Dancing, anything that's there in having to lock into a groove, it's very natural for them. Other folks, it's very tricky, and they just have a much tougher time kind of wrapping their head around it. Again, it's a complex issue neurologically. There you have to anticipate, a lot of things in your mind. But where it all starts is we're going to try and get an external tempo, in this case, a metronome, or drum machine we'll use in a second, and I'm going to try and internalize that. Okay, so we're not going to worry about playing just yet. We're not going to worry about any of that. I'm just going to try. The goal is I'm trying to sync my internal tempo with this grid that is laying down. There it is. Okay, so here's some tricks how you can do this. Here in the Western world, we do a lot of things in 4/4 time, with 4 beats per measure. Sometimes we do things with 3 beats per measure, waltzes and things like that, but most often we're in 4 beats per measure. So we're immediately going to divide this into blocks of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So now I've got this sense it's in 4. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to tap on beat 1. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now, anybody can do this. This is the baby pool. But the thing is, the game that we're playing is being able to lock in. Okay, so this is how it starts. I'm just tapping with your thumb, with your hand, it doesn't matter. You can clap, I don't care. It's not about playing the guitar yet. It's about feeling that rhythm. What if I did it instead of every 4 beats, I did it every 2 beats? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm internalizing that rhythm, okay? I'm syncing myself up with this. This is the leader, and I am the follower. If we were dancing, this is the leader, and I can follow. I can do all kinds of things as a follower, but I'm always attached to this. But Steve, how does that work when you're not playing with a metronome? It works quite well. Okay, so my rhythm is now, when I'm trying to lock into something, it's either to an external rhythm, something like this, or a band, or something like that, or the internal clock, the internal grid that is happening within you. So when I was playing just the two of it, do you still hear it? That's that tempo that I'm trying to lock in. It's just not being spelled out for me with the metronome, but it's in here. And if you don't have that developed yet, we work with a metronome. So what did we do there? We're doing every beat. That's a good way to do it. Okay. Now this is at 90 beats per minute. Again, we're not working on speed. We're not trying to play a tune and lock it up with a metronome. We're not working on playing faster. I'm trying to sync my rhythms to this. And once I can, everything starts to work in music better. My timing for music, it's just so much easier to listen to. If you're playing sounds like this, if it sounds jerky like that, you need to work on this simple exercise of syncing in with the tempo. See, I played the same notes, but I was able to lock in. As soon as I locked in, even for a few beats, you relaxed as a listener. How time is measured is you'll often see in the beginning of a piece of music 60 BPM, beats per minute. If I turn this on, there's going to be 90 of these, actually 92 of these per 60 seconds. Okay, now if I speed it up, I'm at 120 of these for 60 seconds. So it's 2 beats for each second. A little easy way to do 120 beats per minute is Stars and Stripes Forever. That's always 120. Remember what Oliver Sacks was saying? Humans have an incredibly accurate ability to recall a song and the tempo of that song and then mimic it. So you would think that if we couldn't remember the song, we would remember it slower or faster. But we have an incredibly accurate, uncannily accurate way of remembering tempos. And that's just it's kind of part of us. We just have to develop that as musicians. Here we go. Let me turn this back on. We're back at 90 beats per minute. And we've tapped our little rhythms. Now the next stage after this, we're not even playing the guitar yet. I'm just going to tap an improviser rhythm of my own. So I'm just making up my own rhythm. Just make up your own rhythms. The idea, again, is that I'm syncing up with this. Okay? One of the most fun activities that Paulette and I have ever done was at the NAMM shows that they used to have here in Nashville. They would have, after a long, hard day of NAMM and walking, up and down 1,000 aisles and talking to all kinds of people, you're exhausted. And they would have these things, these drum circles at the end. And neither of us are drummers, but they'd have a bunch of drums laying out there. And we would go up and you'd get in a circle and the guy would just start going. And then we'd all go clump, clump, chicka-blum, chicka-glum, glum, glum, glum. And he'd do all kinds of little rhythms that were mimicking him. He'd be loud, he'd be soft. And it was the blast. It was the quickest 20, 30 minutes. And it was just such a release to do that sort of a syncing up within a drum circle. If you haven't done anything like that, I would encourage you to do it. It was an absolute gas doing that. And again, as Oliver Sacks was saying, it's a uniquely human activity of doing that. You can get an elephant to hit a drum or an ape to hit a drum, but you getting everybody to sync together and do rhythms like that is a uniquely human function. So, all right, so now you can tap rhythms. And this doesn't happen overnight, okay? So if you're bad at time, if your time is bad, and you know your time is bad, then work with this. Do 5 minutes of this at your practice times for a week. And I guarantee you by the end of the next week, you're going to be better. You're going to be much better at time. And it's going to reflect itself in every bit of your playing because you will have solidified a very fundamental DNA aspect of being a musician, and that's syncing with this time. All right, so now that we have this, okay, now let's be a little bit more interesting with it. So I've got a little app that's called Drum Genius. I put the link in the YouTube description down below. And so when it plays, it's going to give a full drum groove. Now we're still at 90 beats per minute. But now it sounds like this. Okay, so it's giving me a whole lot more information than just the click of a metronome, which is really helpful. There's just more rhythmic information to build upon. Remember our Just the Two of Us intro groove? Okay, so we just have more information now. All right, so now we're going to start playing the guitar. Hey Steve, what strumming pattern are you using? Can you help me with strumming? Yes, I can. Here's a good trick for it. Mute your instrument. Okay, just clamp down on all the strings. Okay. Now, let's do a down strum each grouping of 4. Remember, we like groupings of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then just start playing with different rhythms. Notice how the lower strings make a different sound than the higher strings. You got your own little drum here. You can do things simple like down, down, up, up, down, 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 up, up, down, 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 up. I can do more complicated rhythms. What we are trying to build in you is this sense of time, this sense of groove within you. Okay, if I can, and it doesn't happen overnight, but if you do this for a week, you do get better at it. And you do get more in tune to locking in. It becomes easier to lock in with a groove. It becomes easier and quicker to lock in with something that's going on rhythmically. Now I'm going to add a note, an E. Okay, let's do an E. Three, 4, 1. I'm just going to play an E. I can just do an open E. And then start elaborating the rhythm. Okay, let's see how good we're doing. 2, 1, 2, internal now. Maybe I can add some chords to it. To a G, to a D, to an E. Okay, let's get a drummer going. E, G, D, E. Do it again. And I'm just making up a rhythm there. Dennis is asking here, how do you find the first beat in the bar? Well, okay, here it's a little bit 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There, it just starts on beat 1. You can just assume it starts on beat 1. But, okay, in this rhythm, let's say I didn't know it. It was already started. How do I know what beat 1 is? Well, the snare, you hear that cap, cap, cap. That's usually, in pop music, that's on beats 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So a lot of times the snare or the bass drum will give you a clue which beat is beat 1. I'm not even really concerned about that, where that you're finding beat 1. I'm concerned that you're locking in with this grid that is happening. Okay, that's really the game that we're playing. But Steve, that's so simple. Hey man, you start getting into bluegrass and you're worried about all of this, and you're playing all this fast stuff, and we think it's all about the notes and the picking. And a whole lot of what we play is about it's about that sense of groove with us. And if you listen back to your playing and you think, gosh, I'm just all over the place when you're playing, these dumb little exercises like this will help you internalize the groove. Again, we're not working about speed. We're not even working about playing a song to a metronome. We're not doing any of that. This is about being able to accept inside of you a sync from an outside source. Here's the analogy. You're dancing, okay? You're dancing, but you have an invisible partner, and you are not the leader. He is the leader. This beat is the leader. Now, I can do all kinds of things. I can dance and spin and play my little bluegrass licks and do all this sort of stuff, but that internal sense of rhythm is the leader. This beat is the rhythm, is the leader as I'm dancing. You need to get better. A lot of times we think it's all about just playing notes and chords, and we don't realize that if I can play a simple melody in time, and suddenly everything clicks and everything starts to make musical sense. If your playing is frustrating you, I would suggest that you stop looking at the notes for a while and start thinking about the rhythm and the sensation of syncing up to a grid. And it is a trap that inexperienced guitar players run into. And if you can just kind of master that simple skill, man, everything starts to work out for you. Your timing, everything, the simplest of songs start to sound better. Even your retardandos when you're slowing down or you're speeding up slightly, you'll find that as I'm dancing with my partner, I still can speed up and slow down a little bit as long as I'm working with that grid, that partner, as long as I'm dancing with that internal grid. So I would encourage you to try some of these simple exercises. Grab a metronome, grab a drum machine, that Drum Genius app. I put the link in the YouTube description down below. Download that, pay a couple of bucks, and you've got all these wonderful beats from all these great songs that you know, and from all over the world. There's jazz things, there's swing things, there's pop things, there's funk, R&B stuff. It's all kinds of stuff. Great, and it's real drummers playing the beat, and it's a whole lot more interesting than just doing a metronome. But work on the skill of internalizing a beat and a groove, and I guarantee it'll start manifesting great things in your playing. Oh, here's another little exercise you can do. Let's say a C chord. And I'm going to play a rhythm on each of the notes of the chord. But Steve, you're just messing around. Yes. What I'm thinking is syncing up with that. That's what I'm focusing on. And then I'm just playing stuff that's going to show that I am synced up with that. Another thing you can do, what do I have? Oh, you can do scales. Okay, let's do it with scale. Let's do pentatonic. Little blues notes. Steve, that sounds so cool. What are you doing? What are you doing? And you think I'm playing two notes. I'm going to add one more note. It's not about the notes. It's about locking in with this groove. And if you can do the simplest thing and locking into a groove, your playing is going to change. I can guarantee it. All right. I hope you've enjoyed some of these exercises. Working with them a little bit each day, and you're going to find that your groove is going to improve. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Thank you for joining us on this quick lesson. We'll see you guys next time.